Welcome, welcome. I am Jeremy with Made Management, and I am here today with the one, the only Candace Stewart. So welcome. I'm glad that you are joining us today. And I know that you're joining us from Atlanta, right?
Yes. I'm in Atlanta. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah.
We appreciate you being here today. And I want you to introduce yourself to everyone who's out there. I know a lot of people probably don't know who you are. And I would love to hear not only about you, but your background. Tell us a little bit about how you got here today. Who are you and how did you get here?
So my name is Candace Stewart. I'm a talent agent at DDO Artist Agency. I've been an agent for about 16 years. I grew up in LA, like I stated, and I always wanted to do something in entertainment. I'm not an actor, I'm not a singer or a dancer. I'm not talented in the way that a lot of others are, but I was just enamored with what actors are able to bring to the table, the ability to take a script or a scene and create a whole character with a backstory and really bring that character to life. And so my obsession with watching people do that led me to going to college and getting a degree in cinema, television arts, media management, so the business side of entertainment. And then after college, I interned at a talent management company, and I stuck with talent representation ever since. And that's the 16 years. And so I kind of have done a little bit of everything that is on camera representation. So I started off as a commercial agent, a junior theatrical agent. Then I was a youth agent for multiple years, worked with kids specifically. Then I transitioned back to adult commercial. And then at the height of the pandemic, I, had my own come to Jesus moment where I realized that I wasn't really passionate about commercials. And so I switched back to television and film. And so I've been in that field ever since. And then not last year, but the year before, during the writer's strike and the actor's strike, the owner of DDO reached out and said she wanted to add Atlanta to the company. And so I thought it over and I said, you know what, I'm down, let's do it. So now DDO is established in LA, Chicago, New York, now Atlanta. And basically, I'm working with local actors in Atlanta while I'm also still working with actors in LA. So I do split my time between the two markets. And so I rep clients here in Atlanta that are most are here in the Southeast. Others are in LA, some are in Chicago, some are in New York that can be considered local hires to Atlanta. But for the most part, focusing on Southeast talent and talent that can make it to Atlanta in any way, shape, or form for production or a shoot. Yeah, so that's kind of my story about, who I am and where I came from. But ultimately, I've been doing it so long. I love what I do. I love finding new talent. I love scouting new and finding new faces. So at the end of the day, I'm happy to be here and happy, to answer any questions you guys have.
Nice. Well, so Atlanta for about a year now, and I'm seeing some of the comments come in. Somebody just messaged, "Hey, that's my agent, Candace."
Oh, hey. I love it. Yes.
So how is the Atlanta market? I would love to talk to you about that. I know that, obviously there's different markets around the world, and Atlanta's kind of a hot spot. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So before I made the transition from LA to Atlanta, I wasn't really sure what the market had in store. Obviously, a DDO wasn't established in the Southeast at the time. So when I transitioned to Atlanta and finally was able to, sit down and start building Atlanta, there are so many projects. There were more projects than I could even possibly imagine. When, LA was kind of like trugging along, a lot of productions were still happening here in the Southeast. And that's the one major difference between Atlanta or the Southeast in general compared to all the other markets is that, if it's shooting in LA, it's shooting in LA. If it's shooting in Chicago, it's shooting in Chicago. Southeast is a little different where you have productions that are happening in Atlanta, but you're also having productions that are taking place, whether it be in Nashville, Alabama, the Carolinas, Florida even. So it's more of a regional type of situation. So the actors that I represent are regional actors. So some of my clients are in all those multiple places as long as it comprises the Southeast. And they can be a local hire to Atlanta, whether they have family or friends that live here for and have an address that they can utilize. But it's fair, and everything over here is fairly close. That's the big difference as well with comparing it to LA. California is large. It's kind of isolated. To get to, Nevada, to get to any other state, it's quite the trek. Whereas you can jump in a car and in 2 hours or an hour and a half, you're in Alabama. Driving regionally is not too much of a request for productions down here. So that's why it's a little bit more regional based as opposed to it being, specifically filmed in that one city. But down here, there are so many productions happening. Like right now, there's Scarpetta that's filming in Nashville with Nicole Kidman. There's His and Hers, which is another episodic that's filming in, I believe, Wilmington. But there's a lot of productions that are happening all over. And every time I turn around, there's a new project, there's a new series, there's a new something that's happening here in the Southeast. So it's every day is very exciting. Yeah.
Well, it's a beautiful area. That's why they like to film down there, right?
Yeah, it is. It's beautiful. It's, and I would say the only setback would be the weather from time to time. Whereas, in LA, for the most part, outside of fires and all the things that are happening there right now, which is an anomaly for how much damage has happened there. But for the most part, outside of the weather, you'll have the productions down here primarily will utilize their weather days should there be random rain or snow or something along those lines. But for the most part, they have beautiful studios, brand new studios that they built. There's Trilith Studios. Tyler Perry obviously has his studio down here. There's just an array of different venues that different studios can utilize that are down here in the Southeast.
Nice, very good. And I think Tyler Perry kind of boosted the whole area when he built his studio down there.
He did, brought a lot of production down here, and from there, everyone else followed suit. And as well as the production incentives that the state has enacted has definitely brought more production down here. At the end of the year, they do their I don't want to call it a rebate, but what they do is that they'll apply for their rebate and then they'll get the money back from production that happens here. So, and they have the requirements of along with that is the requirement of hiring local talent. That's why having an address in Atlanta is vital, because you can put yourself up in a hotel, you can do all those things. That's great. But at the end of the day, they need a home address. They need a place that, that is a private residence to utilize to enact those tax incentives at the end of the year.
Got it. Well, let's talk about that a little bit. You mentioned it a couple of times, being a local hire. What exactly does that mean with, say, for someone like myself? I'm currently in Puerto Rico, and I want to come to Atlanta and become the next superstar. And so you decide you wanted to work with me. Could I work on projects in Atlanta, being that I'm not physically living there?
You can. It's one of those things where it can be a little tricky. And the only way that it could be a little tricky, just meaning in the sense of you have to have the flexibility with your schedule. With that being said, like if we are working together and I submit you on a project that's filming here in Atlanta and they say, okay, great. Are they available? Let's say, February 3rd through the 14th. We don't know exactly which day they're going to be filming. So we usually will find out probably a couple days prior to your report to set or to fitting, as long as you have the flexibility to say, hey, I am available. And then you're able to jump on a plane, get to Atlanta. So that's the first step. The next step would be having a local address to utilize. And that could be through a friend or a family friend, or however way, shape, or form you're able to find that local address. As long as you're able to put that on the contracts, then you're able to be considered a local hire.
Okay. Very good. So if I get a PO box in Atlanta, would that be considered a local address?
No, unfortunately, no. So not a PO box. I know some people are thinking Airbnbs, but I wouldn't necessarily lean into that if you can avoid it. So the best thing to do is try to find, maybe a place to rent out, or the main thing is probably finding family or a friend or a friend of a friend that has an address that you can just utilize for the contract. Now, if you're not able to stay at that address, that's completely fine. But as long as you're able to provide one, and then the way that it works for payment, normally payments go to the agency, either way for processing. So as long as we're able to send a check authorization to production, and then you put down our agency address on the contracts, that verifies that the check will be sent to the agency, so there's no lost payment at an address that you actually didn't utilize, if that makes sense.
Got it. Very good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'm excited because that's a quick flight from here, from Puerto Rico to Atlanta. So.
Yeah. How quick is that flight? Is it just a couple
just
hours?
A couple hours.
Yeah, that's easy. That's easy breezy.
So if you're looking for a good-looking guy with a beard, just keep me posted.
You got it. You got it. Like the Dollar Shave Club commercial of some sort.
Just no shampoo commercials. I'm against
shampoo.
That.
Okay. Well,
I wanted to ask you, what type of clients do you typically represent? Like, what does your portfolio look like when it comes to clients?
Yeah, so my portfolio is quite an array, meaning I have my youngest client is 5 years old. My oldest client is 78. And so I represent actors for like on camera. So that could be strictly for commercial or for print, and TV and film. But my client roster is also an array of skill set, whether it be, I have someone who works part-time for Cirque du Soleil, she's an acrobatic performer, and she auditions ever so often for those types of roles. And that's the only thing that she really wants to do, is just to be part of, any productions that need her skill set. Whereas I have clients that are series regulars on different series down here in Atlanta that I work with to help build their notoriety outside of this market, pushing them into the LA market, pushing them into the New York and Chicago market when applicable. So I have an array of different skill sets. I have an array of resumes, whether it's a limited resume, that doesn't sway me, as long as you have the talent and the ability to do what's needed, and you're able to bring the role to life. That's what I'm necessarily looking for, not large resumes, although that doesn't hurt. But we all know that someone has to start somewhere. But if you have the talent, it's easy to build that resume as quickly as possible so that we can really maximize and push you into other markets.
Nice. So obviously you want somebody that can speak 20 languages and can play 50 instruments and can do it all. But if they're just starting out, you're saying as long as they have great talent, you're okay with it.
Great talent. Yeah, they take it seriously. They're in class, they're studying, they are eager. And I would say that's the big difference between, some of my top bookers and others, is that they take it seriously. It's not a part-time job to them, because it's a full-time job for me. And the more you put into it, the more you get out of it. So the more training, the more classes, the more you watch television and commercials to see what they're hiring, whom they're hiring, what are the current trends. I watch as much as I possibly can. I think I watch more commercials and more TV and movies than most other people. Although right now, coming back from the holiday, I've had a little bit of a lapse in being able to watch things because it's been quite busy. But for the most part, you have to do your research. You just have to watch and see what's happening in the industry. Note, who's part of what production and what's in production, what's going to be happening in the Southeast, what's going to be happening in the different markets, and kind of read the trades. That's super important for anyone that is in any industry. Everyone follows their trades, their news. That's something that's vital. But, as long as you're able to commit to this, it's not a part-time thing. The more you get put into it, the more you get out of it.
Nice. Very good. So watch as much TV as possible.
As much as you can. Yes, as much as you can. And that's the main thing too, when it comes to like pilots and like new series that are in development. A lot of times we don't have, it's not like 911 where you can go back and watch all those seasons to get a feel and the tone of the show. The big difference is, if you're committed to this, you'll take a look at who is the writer of the series, of the pilot, who are the producers of the pilot. And then from there, you can kind of finalize and figure out a tone and how to build the character based on their prior work. So it just takes a little bit more effort and more energy, but at the end of the day, the more you put into it, the more research you do, the more energy you put behind your commitment to becoming, a notable actor, is you'll get more out of it as quickly as possible. Yeah.
So if anybody's out there and you're still living at home and you're in school, just whenever you're watching television, just tell your parents, I'm studying. I'm doing my homework.
Yep. 100%. That's exactly what it is. Because that's the one question that I do ask potential new clients is, what are you watching right now? Like, what entertains you? And, sometimes I'll get answers like, I'm not really watching anything current. I'm watching Friends. I'm watching Seinfeld. I'm watching and it's like, that's great. These are classics. Like, I get it. But I want you to start watching, Yellowstone, like watch the shows that are currently in production, get an idea of, what they want. But the more research you do, the better. So yeah, watch as much as you can. It's homework.
and you touched on a good point. When you're researching, also research who the directors are or what their style is, right? So do you suggest that for any of your clients when they're auditioning for a role, to go in and look at and try to get as much information about the project as possible, even if it is a new project?
Absolutely, 100%. And I know that, at times, life can be chaotic and, sometimes talent, they have a lot of things going on in their personal life. So if I have the time and the ability, I will add a link to, a deadline article about the series. I'll include as much information, like who's attached to the series. If I'm able to get and find a script, I'll send that along with the audition so that they can get a look at the entire episode, as opposed to just that one portion that they're required to audition for. But yeah, at the end of the day, you have to do as much research as you can about different projects, because it definitely helps. Like, for example, right now they're working on a new series from the creators of Stranger Things. And it's going to be like, I don't want to give anything away because I'm not allowed to, but at the end of the day, it's like, we know nothing really about the series. But what we do know is that the writers, the producers, they all were part of the Stranger Things team. And it's filming in New Mexico. And it's going to be an amazing series, I say. And there's another series that's in development. I think they're towards the end, which are from the creators of Breaking Bad. So again, we don't know the tone. We don't know, but we know the tone of Breaking Bad. We know that it's grounded. We know that it's probably going to be dramatic in so many different ways. So at the end of the day, you want to do as much research as you can.
Nice. And so can you give us some tips? Those of you who don't have a great agent like yourself representing them, where would they go to find good resources into, who's on what production?
I would say Deadline is a really good way to kind of go about it. You can type in someone's name, all the articles will pop up that are associated with that person. That's the main one that I use. Variety as well. They're always consistently, like every day, they're pumping out new articles, whether they're long or short, just to give you a heads up of what to expect in the industry. I know that there are probably other trades out there. There's another one, I forget the name, but it's a production website that also tells you what production is happening where, who's attached to it, the stars attached to it. I can't think of the name right now off the top of my head. But if you just dig in, do some Googling, do some research, you'll find some trades that you respond to, as well as like on Instagram or social media, there's pages as well. Like there's a page that I follow here in Atlanta that's about Atlanta productions, and basically just gives you the heads up, like, hey, this is coming here, this is currently in production, and it just kind of consistently shows up in my feed. So it's now part of my everyday. So it's not that I have to go out and do a ton more research. It's right there on my feed. So if you find those accounts, follow those, because it's a nice way to, ingrain yourself in whichever market you're looking for. I'm sure there's one for LA. I'm sure there's one for Chicago. I'm sure there's one for New Mexico. So just kind of do your research, find the accounts and follow, and Google online and find a trade that works best for you.
And I'm sure those of us that are being joined here from international markets, I'm sure there's one in Australia and some in Europe as well.
100%, 110%.
Nice. Well, let's dive into what you do, obviously, on a day-to-day basis. First question I have for you is, do you require exclusive representation? So let's say you decide to represent a good, handsome guy with a beard. Would you be my exclusive agent?
Yes, but that it depends. So for me, I primarily right now I'm focusing on the Southeast. So for me, DDO as a whole is a SAG franchise agency. So we follow all the rules and protocols that are put in place by SAG. So ours is a SAG contract. We are exclusive, but we are exclusive to that specific market. So if I have a client that I represent here in Atlanta, I'm going to represent them for the Southeast. They can have an agent in LA, Chicago, New York, maybe New Mexico, because those aren't necessarily the markets that I'm targeting for them. So they're able to find other rep in other markets, but we are exclusive to the market that we are working to provide opportunities for. And the reason for that is because you don't want 2 or 3 agents working for you in one market, and then let's say you book a series regular role, and then everyone is going to say, well, I submitted and I pitched, and so then you end up having to maybe split commission or pay extra out of pocket to the different reps that you have, because it's really hard to pinpoint exactly where the audition truly came from. So that's why we're exclusive, to kind of eliminate that confusion for the betterment of the agency, but also for the better benefit of the actor themselves.
Got it. And so if somebody was in let's say an international market, would that hinder, like, could they work with somebody internationally and work with you potentially?
Yep, 100%. If you, I do have a client that has a rep in the UK, and he's consistently flying over there, working on different projects. That's overseas. That's not necessarily my market. The only market that I would say can be a little muddy at times is the Canadian markets, depending. Well, they'll have productions that are happening in Vancouver or Toronto, and a lot of times they'll release roles to the agents in the States, while at the same time releasing it to the agents in Canada. Sometimes that can be a little tricky. I haven't had any issues thus far. But for the most part, overseas, you can have rep over there with no issue, or you can be overseas and be repped in the States with no issue.
Now, question, is there any cost for you to represent?
Yeah, no cost. And if anyone were to ever ask for an upfront fee, I would say run, because the trade is that we do not make money until our clients make money. We work commission based. So if you book a project, again, being SAG franchise, anything that is union is 10% of the gross. And then for anything non-union, which is like a non-union commercial or print job, is 20%. And that's pretty much industry standard for agents. Managers are a little different. They're able to set their rate as they see fit, which can be between 10, 15, or 20%, depending. For us, no upfront fees, nothing that you need to do. The only thing that we would require would be for you to create the profiles online so that we're able to submit you properly, making sure that you have materials that we can utilize so we can get you in the room, which is headshots, making sure your resume is put together properly. Again, the online profiles for the networks, Actors Access. In LA specifically, there's also Casting Frontier that they use, which we don't really use in the Southeast. And that's primarily for commercial and print jobs as well. So yeah, but no upfront fees.
So if I'm a brand new actor breaking into the industry, those materials that you just mentioned, so headshots, resume, how important is it for me to get those set up and ready to go?
Super important. When a person is submitting to the agency or submitting to me, the first thing I'm going to look for is their headshots. The second thing I'm going to look for is their resume. So you're going to want to make sure that you have at least one really nice solid headshot. Now, you don't have to go out and do 4 looks or even 3 looks, because when you're working with an agent or a manager, they're going to start guiding you. They're going to send you a list of photographers to work with, or they're going to send you materials to look through to tighten up your package. And so you don't want to spend too much money taking multiple headshots. But again, an array of headshots is great, but you just don't want to invest over $2,000, like $1,000 for the headshots, because they might guide you in a different way. But having the materials, whether it's like 2, 3 looks, is ideal. Making sure that you are easily seen, making sure that you're in focus, making sure that there is no clutter in the background, that there's a nice backdrop, so you can really focus on your face and focus on what you're selling. But having a nice solid headshot is important. And I hardly even end up asking clients for new headshots out the gate because I'm usually really happy with what they have. For the most part, you have to have all of that material together before you are even considered.
So getting a professional headshot, right? You're not
Yeah,
looking for the selfies.
correct. A professional headshot is ideal. Yes, no selfies, no, with your friends or, whatever it may be, but no selfies. You want to definitely do a professional headshot with an actual camera. And I know that even iPhones can be fantastic, which, they have great quality, but there's nothing more, there's nothing like having an actual like single lens reflex camera or going to a professional with the camera who can really make you pop on film.
And why is it important to have a good headshot? Can you explain kind of the reason behind it? It's not just for you to
Right.
set in your office to look at, right? It's
Right. Yeah, so a good headshot is vital. We're in the times where we've passed casting envisioning you in a role. It's more along the lines of casting needs to see that you can personify this particular role, and that has to be apparent in the headshot. So I would say a good headshot it's important for us for submitting purposes, for us to submit you to be competitive. Like right now, I have a client whose headshots just aren't working, and it's been a couple months. And so I'm like, hey, we have to go back to the drawing board. We have to these are the types of roles I'm submitting you for. These are the types of looks that I may need. And then I'm also pretty hands-on in the sense where if I have the time or if you have the ability to send me a selfie of you wearing the wardrobe that you put together, and I give feedback based upon like if you're doing an office worker, look, a professional look. I'll say, hey, I love the shirt, not the jacket. The jacket's not really working. Can we try like a brown jacket or a black jacket or something along those lines? And I'll give feedback just so I can make sure that we have the looks that we actually need, and the wardrobe that's going to match how I envision submitting you or how I've been submitting you. So no, it's super, super important to have multiple headshots with an array of looks. Working the camera is key. I always say if you have like a professional look, or if you're doing the guy next door, the girl next door, that you create a backstory of whatever character you're going to be in front of the camera personifying, because a doctor isn't going to have a big giant smile on their face. If they do, it's kind of weird. It's kind of strange. So doctors usually have a smirk. They're usually like, smiling. It's usually closed mouth or it's deadpan. It's straight on. The smirk is going to be usually for commercial things like WebMD, like, whatever it may be. And then the straight on look is going to be for things like series like The Pit or, ER is not on the air anymore, but like, any of those particular types of shows. So you want to make sure that you're going in with a character, but you're also working the camera, giving smiles and smirks and, straight face. And maybe a little bit of a quirky look, because maybe there'll be a quirky doctor breakdown that's like, he came into the ER and he was, he's a gifted doctor, but he is quirky. So you kind of want to make sure you have a little bit of everything to kind of bring that character to life. So casting will say, hey, that headshot's saying everything that this role is. Let me click on him and give them an audition. Let me give them a time. So it's super important to have a strong idea and a strong sense of what types of characters you can play. A nice photographer to take those headshots, wardrobes that will match the characters that that you can play, and then work the camera for keeping in mind commercial, print, and TV film, whether it be a comedic series or a drama. So you kind of want to work it as best as you can so you can get the most out of your headshot options when you start going through them.
So what I'm hearing from you is to try to figure out who you are as an actor and then portray that on your headshot, right? Is that?
Yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm.
And how does somebody go about doing that? Have you ever had a client who didn't really know who they were as an actor, but you did? Like for example, obviously I'm a leading man, right?
Yes.
That's who I would be.
That's who you are.
I would compete with Brad Pitt, Tom
Mm-hmm.
Cruise every day of the week when I
All day.
audition. But
Yes, all
but no,
day.
like give us an example. Like it's good to know who you are, right? As an actor, it's good to know what kind of roles you would actually fit in.
Right. It's vital. I've had in the past, like, doing this for so long, where I've had clients where we have unfortunately disagreed on the type that, like, whether it be age range, whether it be types of roles. And I know as an actor, a lot of times actors will say, well, I'm an actor, I can play all in a different types of characters. And that may be true. But at the end of the day, actors are usually, I don't want to say even unfortunately, but fortunately typecast. And so you have to build your resume that you be the go-to person that casting says, okay, well, I know that this person is super funny, super quirky. I see them in this role. Lean into that. Lean into casting, saying, "Oh, this guy is, straight lace. He was definitely would play a really stern detective on Law and Order SVU." And lean into that. There's not. It's best to be thought of by casting as, "Oh, you're the guy or the girl who can do X, Y, and Z." So you're gonna want to take headshots that reflect what casting sees in you and what's the low hanging fruit is what I call it. So you want to lean into that because it's not a bad thing. And like, just like Jim Carrey, for so many years he played the comedian, he played the comedy guy, the silly guy, the goofy guy. And then, over a decade into his career, he was finally given the leeway and the ability to start playing characters that are dark and sullen. And he had, so now he had, and same thing with Ben Stiller, comedy all the time, and now he's doing dramas. So it's one of those things where it's fine to be typecast. It's fine to lean into who you are naturally and what you bring to a character. But at the end of the day, you have to stay realistic. You don't want to stretch yourself too thin, because then casting themselves are going to be a little bit confused on where to place you, where to peg you. Like, I don't know. We saw her do comedy, but now she wants to do drama. Like, we're not really there. We have other people in mind that can really do the drama. So you just want to lean into that, lean into what you've been cast for in the past. If you've been cast, whether it be student films, independent films, short films, whatever type of character you've been cast in and you've played and received really good feedback, lean into that, because that's going to be your shortcut and your way into the industry much faster than trying to play everything out the gate.
So do one thing and do it well is really
That's
what I'm
right.
hearing.
Right. That's exactly it. That's exactly it.
It's almost like I give the analogy, like if you ever go to a restaurant, I love going to new places when I travel around the world and little
Mhm.
mom and pop restaurants. And you sit down and there's 6 items on the menu. For me, I
Mhm.
love that because I know that they've mastered these
Yes.
6 items.
A
But when you go
hundred.
to like the Cheesecake Factory and then you have like a whole book and it takes you hours to decide what
Yes.
you want to order.
Yes. You think to yourself, well, I know this is not going to be the top quality, but it may taste good, but that restaurant that has 6 items is probably going to be absolutely fabulous. Water, just you probably will taste nothing like it ever again. So yes,
Right.
you're 100% correct. Yeah.
So as an actor, know who you are and try to really just hone in on that particular character.
Yes.
Now, I meant to worked with a gentleman, older gentleman in the past, and he's had a successful career in the acting world. And he always said, "I'm the nerd. I've always been the nerd, and that's just who I am."
Yes, 100%. And then the resume will build fast. Like you've honed and you figured out the type of character that people see you as and that you do well. And you can build a whole livelihood based on that.
Quick question. We talked about headshots. How important is social media nowadays? Is that something that they're asking for when you're submitting clients, like for their
Mhm.
Instagram handles, stuff like that?
Yeah, it depends on the project. Usually for, let's say, for TV film projects, for the most part, it's not really asked for or sought out. But that varies. Sometimes they'll it's and this is the one thing about the industry that can drive people crazy. There's no right, there's no wrong. Not a lot of, yes, there's a lot of no, but there's a lot of gray areas. So the gray area meaning, for commercials, oftentimes, let's say for like an Adidas commercial, they'll want, professional runners and road runners or road cyclers. And they want their Instagram handles. They want to see if they've run triathlons. They kind of want to use it as a verification type of system sometimes for commercials. For movies or even TV shows at times, they will look for social media people, but you have to have like over 10,000 followers. That's like minimum. Like you have to kind of build up your fan base. And they also do look at interactions now because they've kind of caught wind that, you know, you can buy subscribers, like you can buy followers. So they look at your interaction rate as well. Like for example, right now I'm working with Revlon for some social media influencers that I do work with freelance in a sense, and working to try to get them campaigns. And so they want to make sure that they have like over 30,000 followers. They have this engagement, this, that, the other. So if you are doing something on social media and you have a lot of followers, that can definitely also help you in different areas. Now, I don't know if it will help you become, you know, the next Tom Cruise. I'm not sure if that's going to be the thing, but you will get projects, you will get inquiries, we'll have people that are interested in some way, shape, or form. But also too, and also in LA, I represent a client who has a huge social media following for comedy, does comedy skits, tons of followers. I've utilized that to get him in the room for different episodics, comedies, Abbott Elementary, you name it. I'm able to use his following and his reels that he posts to get him in the room. But with that being said, he's also an actor. He's not just a social media influencer. Just by chance, he happened to blow up during the pandemic, and people were at home. Everybody was watching, you know, their reels and their stories. And so that has really benefited him doing comedy skits. So again, it's not for everyone. It's not a traditional way in which we find or scout talent. But it has shifted over the past 5 years, especially since the pandemic, where, you know, a lot of people have come to realize that there are some really, really talented people out there that aren't really given the opportunity. So they've had to make their own opportunities by creating skits and comedy things, and they're benefiting from it. So if you're really good in an area or a genre, do little productions, put things on, you know, put it out there. You just never know what can come from it.
It's a great resource to be able to showcase your talent, right? To even
Your
show
talent.
different looks with your photos as well.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But so keep that in mind, those of you who are out there, that people do look at your social media. So it's important to leave it as professional as possible, right?
Yeah.
I mean, have you ever seen a client's social media account and asked them to remove something, like you saw something pop up that you didn't think was appropriate?
Yes, I have, but didn't ask them to take it down. It kind of, I don't know. And when not necessarily to take it down, but I've kind of said to myself, noted, like I will not be offering that to casting, you know, out the gate. Again, like with the client in LA that has the comedy following, I utilize his Instagram handle in every pitch that I send. Other clients, I'm like, you're so close, but keep working on your material. And then once it gets there, I'll be more than happy to share. But for the most part, if something is there that I'm not necessarily excited to see, I'll just note it and say I won't be utilizing their handle for pitching purposes. But yeah, I try
It's
to
out there, right?
yeah, it's out there, and I try to, and obviously, you know, it's their personal social media page, so I kind of don't really want to hone in too much or tell them what to do regarding that. But again, just remember that everyone's looking, everyone's watching. Like I've had casting directors reach out to me about location as well. Oh yeah, you said that they're, you know, in the Southeast, but it says that they're in, you know, Canada. So you also want to make sure that your social media doesn't, if you're looking to be represented in multiple markets, you want to make sure that it doesn't say that it's location specific, because casting directors do their research. They're not dumb. They're very smart, very quick to catch something if it doesn't add up. So you want to make sure that if you're living in LA and you want rep in Atlanta and you have rep in Atlanta, just be sure to take off Los Angeles, because those casting directors are going to take a look.
So lesson learned from those of you out there, just make sure that you keep your social media professional at all times, and know that people are actually going to be looking at it as well.
They do.
What is a piece of advice if a new actor is coming to you what would be the one thing that you would ask them to really do before they met with you? Like what's a kind of a good determining factor when you see this in an actor, you think, oh wow, I love this. Like, is there anything out there that kind of stands out that you can think of?
Um, I would say, I mean, for me, it's when I open an email, it's the professionalism that is put into the email is what catches me. Sometimes I'll get submissions that says, "Hey, I want to be in TV," and then it's just a picture, and then I'm confused. And then I kind of go, I don't know how, or I'm new to this. What do I need to do? And I'm like, I don't have the time to walk you through that. So that's why doing your own research and doing classes and doing things like this is so vital because it's a shortcut. It gives you a shortcut to information that you need to become to bring yourself to that next level faster. But for me, it's the professionalism and the layout of the email. Let me know who you are. Like, where are you from? Like, what are you looking for? What are you seeking? What experience do you have? I would love to see like multiple headshots, a resume. So for me, it's just leading with the professionalism and knowing what to include in those emails of inquiry. And if I like what I see, and if you're a type that I really need, I'll just reply right away and say, hey, where are you actually located? Or can you be a local hire? Are you a local hire? And then I'll start interacting. And then from there, I'll decide if I want to take a meeting or not. So I would say just making sure that, and then as well as if you have a reel or or any material that you can send along. Now, I don't know about other agents because everyone is different. Other agents and managers, everyone has a different, requirement. But for me, I like it to be actually physically attached to the email. Your headshot and your resume, so I can just click on it without having to download from WeTransfer or having to add it to my Google Drive, because a lot of times I open my Google Drive, I get so annoyed because we utilize Google Drive at our company. And when I open it, I'm like, who are these people? Who are these faces? So then I start going through and start deleting random things that I didn't want to add to my drive. And it leaves a bad taste in my mouth. So for me, just attach it to the email. I can see everything clearly. If you have a website, include the link to your website. Obviously, make sure your links work. That's another thing. Sometimes I'll reply to people and say your link's not working in your email. Can you send it to me again? So just make sure that everything is on the up and up. Tell me who you are. Tell me what you want. What markets are you interested in? Your experience. If you lack experience, that's fine. Tell me what your skill set is of special skills. What shows you're watching. What do you want out of a relationship with an agent?
Okay, very good. I love that attachment part. Don't you? I get concerned sometimes when I get a random email from somebody and it has a link because you just don't
Yes.
know. You just don't want to click on it, and
It's scary, and it's like because I have two computers, and I'm like, okay, if one goes down, I have another one. But with that being said, I don't want my one to go down.
right.
But it's like when it's a link, it's kind of frightening. So you kind of just want to make sure that it's attached. I think that's the best and traditional way to do it. So there's no viruses, there's nothing I need to worry about, and it doesn't end up in Google Drive or even with WeTransfer there's an expiration date. And so a lot of times people will submit to Atlanta or LA. I will, if it's a busy day, I'll take those emails, I drag them into a folder. And then when I get a little bit of downtime, then I'll start working through the agency submissions. And then if I see someone I like that maybe submitted 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago, but the link expired, then I have to just continue to move on. So you just want to attach it. It's just the easiest thing to do. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. So what I'm gathering from you, piece of advice for those of you who are submitting for Candace's Eyes is to be very professional, to have a complete email with an attached photo and a resume,
Yes.
and just to give you all the information that she would want, right?
Yes.
That you would want for that particular email. So you don't want somebody to email you and say, "Hey, I have a question."
No. You'd be surprised. I actually do get them sometimes. I have a question. What do you do? And I'm like, I can't help you. I don't know how to start. And again, as an agent, our days we're so busy. Like, right before we even started this, I was working on sending out some appointments that came in overnight, and it's Saturday. But again, this is what we do. This is what I love the work that I do, but we're always working. We're always on. We're always communicating. And even if you don't hear from an agent for a little while, just know that we're continuing to work for our clients. We're continuing to do what needs to be done to get you seen. So yeah, it's, the more information you can put in that email about who you are, what you do, what you want out of this, what your goals are, and the materials that correspond with that, like that's ideal. Ideal. Yeah.
I have a couple questions coming in,
Yeah.
and somebody asked, is 29 too old to start as an actor?
No, never. It's never too, you're never too old to start as an actor. I have breakdowns all the time that are looking for different ages, different skill sets, like a really good way to start. And even then it's like, like for Scarpetta, like they are looking for, 40 to 50 for a co-star role, which, other 40s and 50-year-olds on my roster that have extensive resumes aren't going to do that co-star. So there's ample opportunities at different ages, different levels, different skill sets. You just kind of have to just put yourself out there, commit, but that's not, age isn't necessarily a thing that I will factor into not signing someone. It's actually something that I will sign someone because they're older and I need their type and I see a lot of projects for them. But as long as they're trained, ready to go, professional, that's what we're looking for, regardless of age.
And one thing I've noticed at being at different showcases is sometimes the older actors are the ones who receive a lot of
Yep.
attention because I feel like there's not a lot of people that think, oh, I'm 45 years old and I shouldn't be doing this right
Yep.
now. And
Yep.
the ones that step out and do it, I,
Succeed.
right, I feel like they get.
There's a need, there's a demand, there's a huge demand. And, as we get older, unfortunately, we kind of lose our motivation to dream. Like we don't dream as much as we do when we're younger. So that's why a lot of times people will associate acting with being younger, because being younger, you're a dreamer. But for me, older, I'm like, you've had life experiences, you've had a career, you have a career, you know what being professional is, you know about how to add a lot of information, you know what needs to be done to be successful in some field or to be successful in any way to make a living. So I'm like, give me older any day. Instead of having to train like the kids out of
Right.
college, or even younger. But no, there's no, like, there should be no, age shouldn't be a deterrent in wanting to pursue a career in acting.
Nice. I have another question here. Somebody is asking that they live in a small town. They're still going to high school. How do, is that going to hinder them from becoming an actress? Actually, can you give me a piece of advice? If somebody is living in a small area, not a big market,
Mhm.
and they're sitting here watching this right now, and their dream is to break into the industry,
Mhm.
what would you tell them that they should start doing
Yeah.
to potentially get them representation?
Absolutely. Small towns that's America. Like, that's the world. Like a lot of small towns. I would say if you're in a small town, again, do your research, do your work, watch shows, watch commercials in a different way, not necessarily looking at the product, or how the show is making you feel or what type of emotion that it's pulling from you. Look at it from an analytical standpoint where you're like, okay, I see this actor. This actor looks like me. What kind of character is this? Okay, let me do some research. Who is this person? What is their backstory? How did they get to where they are now? So doing research, watching shows, Googling actors, Googling people behind projects, as well as, I'm not sure exactly how small the market is, but there tends to be, colleges, that local colleges that have maybe a film production class, and maybe they're doing, a thesis at the end of the year, or they're doing some type of short film as part of that class, and they're looking for actors. So I would say, check out, different programs in your area, different IT departments, or different things like that, where they're looking to hire local talent for, the scripts that they've written. I would also suggest, for Actors Access, that's a really good way to kind of get started in getting seen for independent film, student film, short film, so you can start adding credits to your resume. as well as the smaller productions have a tendency to give you the material once they're done editing. So then you can start creating a reel. So Actors Access is probably really another good place to start. You don't have to create like a paid profile. You don't have to pay, a ton of money for that. Just a basic profile with all your skill sets. And then when you sign up for self-submitting, different projects will start popping up in your area, your local area. So then you'll be privy to all the productions that are happening close by. You can submit yourself to those projects. They'll reach out to you if they're interested. They'll ask for you to audition for the project. So that's a good way to kind of start building the momentum while you're still in school, while you're in a smaller market. You just never know where and when productions are going to be happening, but you can seek them out through high school programs, college programs, self-submitting through Actors Access if you create a basic profile for that. And then you can self-submit on local projects and then build the resume, and then maybe have like a nice little reel as you head out of that market.
Yeah, I always tell people to enjoy the journey, right? And
Yeah.
sometimes being in a smaller market, you can be the big fish there, right? So you can
Yeah.
be the one that they're always needing for their
Yeah.
projects.
100%. Like I've had clients that have, or potential clients and clients that have submitted in the past that didn't really have much large market experience, but they were able to submit to the agency, and they found like a group of students that are all passionate about film and making films and making shows, and they have material. And it may not be the best material, but I can see what the actor brings to the table. I can see what your acting skills are. I can see how committed you are because you've already put a lot of work into trying to build and grow a reel and a resume. So those are the things that I would probably start with. Yeah.
Nice. And coming from a small town and trying to go into like a big area, a big market, that could be very difficult. So without that experience.
Exactly. And you may even be better off than someone who's in a large market who decided to not pursue acting until after college, or and if you're coming out of high school with a resume and a small a reel, then you already have an advantage regardless of like where the productions happen. Like it doesn't matter if it's at Chapman University in LA, or whether it be, a small production at a high school or a college in a smaller town. You still have resumes, you still have materials to work with. So that's one thing that you can do, is just make sure that you are tapped into the creatives that you can find that are local to your area, and build a team around them and be part of their team and really work with them, because they'll probably keep using you over and over and over again. Next thing you know, before you head to a larger market, you may have 4 or 5, films under your belt, maybe even a local commercial under your belt. Yeah.
Nice. I have another question here. Somebody says that they're older, they're in their 40s, but they look younger. So they look like they're in their like mid 20s. Is that a bad thing?
No, it's fabulous. So you're talking about me because I'm in my 40s and I look young. No, I would say no, that's a good thing. It's a good thing because it adds age range. I would say, like, if you're in your 40s and you can play like 35, like I have clients that are in their 40s but don't look 40, and their age range is like 30, like 33 to 40 or 30 to 40. So it's just about skewing that. So it doesn't hurt at all in any way, shape, or form, but there's also a maturity that comes with that. So that's why I always like to include their actual age in the age range. And some people can be 35 to 45. Some people can be like 35 to 50. It really just depends on the hair color. It depends on, the makeup. It depends on a lot of things. But if you have a larger range, that opens you up for more opportunities.
Got it.
Yeah.
Now, can you walk me through, somebody's asking what the audition process would look like. So let's say they're a new actor that you started working with, representing. What would the steps look like once that's been established?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I'm working with a client, so basically my job is to, sit in front of a computer all day, look at all the projects that are coming out, plug my clients, pitch my clients. And then when an audition comes through, whether it be through casting networks or Actors Access, will pull together an email, send the email out along with the audition information, like basically the role, the character's name, character description, the date and time that the audition is due, a breakdown of what the project is, directors, producers, executives, executive producers, casting directors, studio network. Like it's a very detailed of like what this project is going to be and who's behind it. And then the next thing will be the storyline of like what the story is about, because you only get a small blip. So there usually will be a storyline of what exactly this project is. Like there were two girls that lived in a small town and came across, a body, blah, blah, blah. So it gives you the whole like rundown of the storyline so you get an idea. And then sides will be attached. And sides are basically just a portion of the script. The sides is just the sides for your character. And then from there, I'll send it out. I don't necessarily call my clients because they know that they need to keep an eye on the emails that are coming through. So I always say, turn on your email notifier, maybe even make it specific to emails that are coming from casting networks, Actors Access, and the DDO email. And that way it'll pop up right there, as well as sometimes with casting networks, it'll go to your cell phone if you add your phone number. So it will alert you when you have an audition. Now, when I send that out, I usually like for the clients to reply within 2 hours max, because I start getting uneasy. One, because my day gets busy, and then when I start to move on to other things, I tend to forget. And so on my end of the day, like the one thing that I have to do at the end of the day is to go through every audition, like every audition that was sent out, see who hasn't confirmed, who has confirmed. And then I start sending follow-up emails that just say confirmed question mark, like let me know, because I'm like tomorrow is a whole new day and I'm going to forget, and then you're going to miss the audition, and then we're going to be in a bad situation. And then from there, the due dates and time, well, mainly the time that it's due, I tend to cut it. I tend to give myself and my assistant like a 3-hour window between when clients submit it and when it's actually due. And that's for our purposes, meaning we like to review all the tapes that come in. But sometimes in a day, we'll have 50 tapes that are due. And this could be specifically for TV and film. That's how busy it is. So we have, maybe 20 auditions for the same project, and they're all due at the same time. So we have to give ourselves that 3-hour window to give ourselves time to go through, give feedback, see if you can redo the slate, see if you can change something before it's sent along. So it's always vital to make sure that you are keeping an eye on your emails and your cell phone for when your agent calls, because there's a reason why we're not just emailing to email, we're emailing because something is vital. And so that's kind of how the process goes. We review it, give notes. If there's no notes, we'll go ahead and send it along to casting. And then we kind of wait to hear from casting to see if they're interested in pinning you, availing you, or doing a callback with you. And then, yeah, that's kind of like the rundown, the run through.
Nice. And what is your favorite part about doing this job?
Ooh, my favorite part of doing this job is when I start receiving the text messages from set and when they send me images. Like, again, I'm not gonna say I'm a failed actor. I'm an actor that knew I couldn't act. So I opted for something else, but I love to live vicariously through my clients. So I love to see them on set. I love to see, like, when they send me, especially pictures of craft services. I'm so jealous because they do feed them very well on set. So for me, it's just the excitement of booking someone on something, seeing them enjoy what they're doing, seeing that the hard work that they've put in has paid off, and that casting and producers and directors and network all saw that this person has what it takes to do this role. And then the other part of that is it doesn't stop, because then the show airs, the commercial airs. And then there's a whole nother bout of joy when, a client is on television and you're like, I did that, and they did that, and we did that. And so there's a lot of camaraderie that I have with my clients, which makes me very happy.
Nice. What can you share with me a moment that you shared with an actor when they got hired? Is there anyone that stands out to you?
Yeah, there is one. So I have a client, Soledad Campos, and she booked a Bradley Cooper film called Maestro that was on Netflix maybe 2 years back. And when she booked it, I called her and I was like, I have news for you. And she was like, don't tell me. And I was like, you booked it. And we just screamed and she cried and I almost cried. And because it was like, it was a gut wrenching process, audition process of a large, cast, a really large cast. And she was just, it was a game changer for her. And ever since then, we are able to utilize that film to pitch her into so many more opportunities. And every time I turn around, she's working on a new set, she's working on a new project. And it was just that one that really catapulted her into that next level. And so that was to me like a warming experience. And then another one is for that new series, The Pit, on HBO on Max. And my client, Amy Lynn, she booked one of the top of show recurring guest star nurses, and she's in all episodes opposite Noah Wild. And when she booked it, I almost cried, and she was ecstatic. And then now that the series is starting to premiere, it's even more exciting to see her on screen. And especially when you see someone on screen on a show that you actively watch, it's just fulfilling, so fulfilling.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then you yourself, I noticed that you are nominated or were nominated this last year for a Heller Award.
I
So
was. Yeah, thank you. It was my third time not being nominated. I won once in 2019. But the Heller Awards is, the only really award show that addresses and, the work of agents, the work of managers. And so I didn't win in the Southeast, which is totally fine with me. I was just so honored to be nominated because a lot of work has gone into, building DDO Atlanta, so much work. My clients have done so much work. So, and so it's just so really nice to be recognized, not only just for myself, but for the agency as a whole, and also for the clients that I represent. So it was a fun time. Yeah.
nice. And of course you won in the past. So you gotta leave it for others as well,
That's
right?
true. That's true. So I'm kind of like, I have one. It's sitting somewhere around here. I look at it ever so often. I keep it in a box, and I'm like, yeah, I remember you, friend. And then I just move it on, keep it moving. But no, such a wonderful experience. Such a wonderful. And the Talent Managers Association is absolutely phenomenal at what they do. So yeah, it's always an honor to be recognized.
Agent of the Year. You should just have it you should just be holding it this whole time. Just have it.
I told my mom I want to make it into a necklace, but the thing is, like, it's large, and so
Is
it
it?
would look like I would look like Flava Flav walking around with like a clock on my chest. So, yeah,
I would love to see that.
right. Seriously, the next time you see me, I might have like a giant gold chain with this award around my neck.
Every time you walk in the office, everybody's rolling their eyes. Here comes
Pretty
Candace with
much.
her Heller Award.
There she is again. She can't put it down. That would be phenomenal.
Well, I appreciate your time. I know that we're running out of time here today, and I do appreciate you spending a few moments and talking with us and picking your brain. Before you leave, though, quickly, what is the best way for somebody who might have been listening today and they wanted to reach out to you? What do you recommend is the best way to approach that?
Yeah, and not social media, do Messenger, because I don't ever look at my Messenger because it's always lit. So I tell people all the time, I will glance ever so often, and I'm like, no, since the agency. So you can email me your materials is ideal. Email is at doagency.com. You can email me, touch base. I would love to take a look at the material, see what you're working with. And if it's a fit, you'll hear from me. If not, then keep building your resume, keep building your experience. Be sure that it's a professional email with all the information that I could possibly need so I can make that a good decision. Because if some questions aren't answered, then I'll probably just keep moving on to the next email. So just make sure you include all the information that you possibly can, who you are, what you're doing, your materials, your headshot, your resume, and your reel if you have one, and a link to your website if you have that as well.
Nice. Okay. Well, very good. We'll be looking for my email here shortly. Okay. I'll be sending all that information.
Sounds good, Brad Pitt. Let's do it.
Well, I appreciate your time again. Thank you for joining us. Those of you who are here with me today that are on the members lounge, I'm going to be doing a live session here in about 8 minutes to answer any questions that you guys have. So I'll see you over there. That's going to be on Zoom. So I'll see you over there in a few minutes, you guys. So feel free to click on that link in the members lounge and join me on Zoom. But round of applause for everybody's out there giving snaps and applause for you, Candace. And we appreciate your time. Thank you for being here with us. Enjoy the weather and stay warm out there. And I hope to see you in the near future.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for having me, everyone.